I'm sorry to tell you guys, but this is the best keyboard sound. Wait, what is that?
Yum yum.
What is that?
I like THOCK.
Yeah, we're gonna need to have a chat.
We gotta talk about the biggest buzzword in keyboards, and that's, you already know what it is, THOCK. Now, I want you to leave a comment of what you think your definition of THOCK is right now, and then let me tell you mine. Deep, subjectively good sounds. Because I found true THOCK years ago, and some of you have seen my video on that, but what if you also wanted true THOCK? Because why would we even want a keyboard to THOCK? Well, I could tell you in my experience using tons of different custom keyboards, one of the main things people care about actually is sound. Now, I know what you're thinking, and before you go comment and boost my engagement about how THOCK isn't the best keyboard sound, it's totally subjective. Like, I really prefer deep, thocky, wonderful sounds. But other people don't, and that's totally okay. Now, for some people, the best way to get the best sounding keyboard is to build it yourself, which honestly is still the best way.
But I know what you're thinking. I just want a keyboard that makes good sounds and I don't want to stress about it. Well,
This might be it. Guys, oh, this sounds like heaven. Let's start with the keyboard, and by no means is this the only option. This is just one that I found that's really good. But it also has a couple things wrong with it. Okay, stick around. There's a couple things that you really might not like, and you maybe don't want to buy this at all. Don't tell Varmilo I said that. Actually, tell him I said that. Why not?
now, if you're brand new to keyboards and you just clicked on this video because you wanted the best keyboard sound, then howdy hey, I'm Hipyo and I try keyboards so you don't have to. Now, I'll explain more about how this keyboard has deep sounds later and some of the flaws of it, but this is the Varmilo Manilo 98 Pro, and that was a mouthful. This was sent to me by my sponsor Varmilo, who did not review this video, and all of my thoughts are my own. Yes, even the bad ones. Now, I'm gonna start with something that's gonna make Varmilo very mad, but who is this keyboard not for? Well, if you like building keyboards, this keyboard is not for you at all. If you're someone that's super discerning and on a budget, then this keyboard is also not for you at all. Unless you need a number pad, which actually makes it a great value, but we'll talk about that more later. So you're probably thinking, wait, Hipyo, but that's me. Well, there are a few things about this keyboard that you're gonna want to stick around for, especially the switches, because remember the deep sounds? The accessories are nothing to write home about. You get a cable, a switch puller, blah, blah, blah. And Varmilo originally sent me two keyboards, the Muse 65 and this one, but I'm gonna be honest, the Muse 65 wasn't as interesting as this keyboard to me. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm super biased because I like deep sounds, but this wasn't as interesting to me as Omega THOCK. So I put it away and made Varmilo very sad. Leave a comment if you want to see a video on that. Now, this keyboard starts at $159 US, and wait, why does it smell bad? I think they have some type of perfume or scented tablet in the box because, my God, it was very fragrant, and whoa. Now, the first thing you might notice is that this keyboard is absolutely gorgeous. Like, it's got this champagne iPhone rose gold type aesthetic, and this is what initially drew me in because I was like, ooh, it's pretty, hee. But there's actually a lot more behind the scenes that makes this keyboard really interesting and also really terrible for some people. Now, the case is unapologetically plastic, although there is a tiny bit of metal in there that we'll look at later. And you know we have the plastic flippy feet. And the build quality is really interesting here. Like with this top metal accent, it gives you the sense that you're using something more premium, but then the case still feels plastic, kind of like a $50 keyboard. Now, something that's actually super worth mentioning is Europe Gang. Howdy hey, did your ears just perk up? Varmilo does offer a ton of different ISO layouts. So if you're someone that's in Europe and you like ISO layout, this actually opens up a lot of options for you. Now, it is 20 bucks more, but 20 bucks more for ISO layout support is really great. Just like this gasket performance. Wait, what? Now, when optimizing keyboard sounds for deep thockiness, having a really evenly distributed gasket is super great because that means you don't get a lot of hot spotting, not a lot of ping. This is a very good sign.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Hipyo, the case is entirely plastic. That is way overpriced and potentially garbage. Why are you even saying this thing is good? That's what I thought at first too. And then I realized if the thing that you're going for is deep sounds, I've said this before, but plastic is actually the best for that.
Now, if you're going for more of a marbly or clacky sound, then aluminum is definitely way better. And there are some alternate case materials that are really interesting too, other than just plastic. Shameless plug of my silicone keyboard video and RGB. The lighting performance is fine here. It's not too bright, it's not too dim, it's just kind of there. Oh yeah, speaking of there, I guess I should probably mention the numpad, because there's a numpad there. Now originally I was gonna make this video like, this is the THOCK-IEST keyboard with a numpad, and then I went back and looked, and any of my videos that mention numpads just don't do well. So like, even though the average person is like, I can't use a keyboard without a number pad, they also can't watch videos on one with a number pad. And you're probably wondering, Hipyo, why are you holding this dongle so gently and so carefully? First off, don't take that out of context. And second off, this is the 2.4 gigahertz dongle. Oh, sorry, I bet this happens to everyone. Now, this does have wireless support, and why does it say it's the Newfie Air 75 V2? And one of the perks of it being an entirely plastic keyboard is it probably has pretty decent wireless support that I have no way of testing. Yay. But that does bring me to the software, because the #1 critique I always have for these keyboards is that their software sucks and is stinky and is garbage. However, Varmilo has taken that to heart because they use QMK and VIA, which is one of the best softwares for keyboards. This allows you to set macros, rebind things, change your lighting, and all of that is really good on a board with a number pad that you could potentially just use as a macro pad if you're not a number pad gamer. Now, I do really love the aluminum accent that's on this thing. Like, it gives it a very nice flair. And I think they definitely could have gone with a case design that actually allowed for easy disassembly so you could mod this thing. But what we soon might realize is that we don't even need to. But you know what is incredible? These switches. Because while they say they're silent switches, they're terrible at that, but in the best way possible. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, wait, Hipyo, didn't you say this keyboard sounded incredible and thocky? Why did you say these switches are terrible? What do you even mean? Who am I? Well, this board comes with two different switch options, the Kale Prestige Voice and the Kale Prestige Silent. Now, I haven't gotten to try the Prestige Voice, but removing these Prestige Silents using the hot swap sockets reveals that, wow, these are definitely the highlight of the keyboard. And if you're not interested in the keyboard at all, then you should probably be interested in these switches because they do sell them separately. We'll talk about the switches more in a second, but first let's talk about these keycaps because they're double shot PBT. And if they would have included die-sub PBT keycaps, I think this board would have been even thockier actually. Because remember, we're optimizing for deep sounds here. The colors are overall pretty nice, and there is just a little bit of fuzziness on the legends, which is kind of odd considering they're double shot. The keycaps are fine. They're not incredible. They're not, you know, they're fine. However, back to the switches. If you wanted to buy these by themselves, it's 23 bucks for 55 switches. I have tried a lot of different silent switches in my quest to find the deepest sounding keyboard because generally super deep sounds don't actually come from a loud clacky switch. And these are one of my favorite switches of all time. Like, I'm kind of in love with them. And this bit made me very dizzy. Now, in order to figure out why these switches are so good, let's first open one up. Now you're probably like, Hipyo, this is just a regular keyboard switch. What's the big deal with it? Well, when you open it up, it reveals that the inside is very different than your average keyboard switch. First off, because it's trying to be a silent switch, they've got a bunch of different dampening layers and little things that are everywhere and little bits of silicone, and dear God, you should never take these switches apart. They are, however, very well factory lubed, which gives them an incredibly smooth feeling. And I've seen silent switches with like 1 or 2 kinds of dampening, but this is the first that I've seen that had 3 or 4 even. Don't take apart these switches. I lost one of the little silicone bits, and now my switch will not work. So they're very cool switches, but I'm gonna give them a 0 out of 10 on the modability scale. Unless you're like literally a surgeon, don't take apart these switches. You don't need to, just don't. But then remember how I said they were bad silent switches? Well, let's look at a quick little comparison. Okay, so here's a really good example of how these switches suck at being silent. Here's a Gateron, I think Smoothie. Super duper silent. Like actually one of the quietest switches that I've ever used. I've got a video on building an AliExpress keyboard with these. Now, I've got one of these in page down and one of these in page up. Maybe you can tell me the difference. So you hear how one of them just has like a really lovely deep thock to it and the other one is just kind of silent? Like it's making noise, but it's such a good noise in my opinion. Unlike the work going on outside. Thanks for that. And the frogs. Dude, frogs, bros, can y'all chill? Can you hear that? This kind of sounds like a frog switch. Okay, by the way, if you guys don't know, this is a Hipyo Plants interlude. These are my poison dart frogs in my poison dart frog tank. Yes, I own poison dart frogs. Here's one of them. Oh,
Where'd he go? Hold on. Dang, they're so good at hiding. Here you go. Okay, they're being shy, but go look at Hipyo plants if you want more of that.
So with all that being said, these switches are quite a bit quieter than your average keyboard switch. However, they are not a silent switch, but that's to their benefit. And I don't think they intended that, but it's great and I love it. Like if you want to get a perfectly silent keyboard, then I've got a couple videos on it. It's very easy to do.
But then why does this thing sound so good? Let's take it apart real fast. How do we take it apart? How do we take it apart? Guys, come on. Oh, I actually don't even think I can do this because I cut open my thumb with a rusty screwdriver. And yeah, so leave a comment. Say R.I.P. Hipyo's thumb. He really tried.
Speaking of really tried, you remember how earlier in the video I said there are some features of this keyboard that are terrible, which might make it so you don't want to get it? If you're someone that likes to take apart your keyboard and customize it and tinker with things and adjust foams, then this is a terrible keyboard for that.
Why is this thing so hard to get open? That was way harder than it needed to be, you guys.
This isn't like the GMK67 where it's just inconvenient. Like this is genuinely impossible without proper pry tool equipment. So I'm gonna give it like a 2 out of 10 in modability. I don't know, I just wanted to give it a number, guys. I feel left out sometimes. But it also smells when you open it.
It's like, it's scented. Why is the keyboard scented? What?
Now, other ways of making your keyboard sound super deep are various dampening foams. And you could easily make your own keyboard sound pretty deep by putting a bunch of different foams in it to absorb all of that loud, clacky resonance.
Interestingly enough, I think half of the thock is coming from the switches and the foams that are in this plate and PCB assembly. Like, pretty thocky, right? But then when you put everything together, it's a little bit thockier. I don't know if you tell the difference. Now, I am decently disappointed to learn that the aluminum top case that they say in the product listing, no. He's not, there's not much going on here. He has a thin sheet of accent aluminum. He's not a top case. Maybe that's a translation error, but no, this ain't him.
Yeah, I just thought this was really funny, and I roasted Razer for saying falsely that they had an aluminum case. So Varmilo, you're getting roasted here. You said the top case is aluminum. This is a top accent. The rest of the top case is plastic. However, their gaskets are very nice. Their case has silicone dampening in it, which is my favorite way to make a keyboard sound really deep and thocky. And it seems like on the internals, they've checked so many different boxes to make your keyboard sound and feel better. And the fact that they have that much dampening in the keyboard and there's still good gasket flex is really impressive. Like, this keyboard does a ton of things right, and my biggest complaint is how terrible it is to take it apart, and that they probably could have made the case construction just a bit better.
Now, I hear you. You're probably like, Hipyo, why are you glazing this keyboard so much? It's just an average silent keyboard. Number one, that's kind of mean. Number two, this actually goes way deeper because the keyboard that I use every single day sounds like that. And this isn't some silent keyboard. This is a Frankenstein keyboard that you can watch how I built over here, over there. It's actually electrocapacitive. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm not using this thing because of the electrocapacitive technology or because Topra's superiority or a million other things that you genuinely don't care about. I'm using it for the feel, and the sound is kind of nice too. So far, this is the closest keyboard that has ever come to that feel. Now, will I be using this keyboard every day? No, it has a numpad, and numpads are stinky, and if you like them, you're so stinky. For legal reasons, numpad users, you are not stinky. Please subscribe. But what I might do, and maybe get subscribed because this could be a future video, is take these switches out, spring swap them for an even lighter spring because I like 35-gram switches, and then maybe make a new Frankenstein keyboard. Because I really don't say this enough, but feel is the most important part of a keyboard, and it's just impossible to demonstrate feel over a video. So I like to show sound because sound is kind of representative of that in a little bit, but feel is so important, you guys. It's so important. But back to the important stuff.
Now, originally I was gonna roast the price because it's $159, and that's really expensive. You can buy the Rainy 75 and the ND 75 and other keyboards, and wait, none of those have numpads. In fact, maybe I'm missing something here, but this is actually one of the best valued pre-built keyboards that has a numpad. Like, Am I wrong? I don't know, leave a comment. I could be missing something. Check the comments. Like, the only other keyboard I can think of that's competitive to this would be the GK104 Pro from Skyloom. And while that board is super cool and does have screens and knobs, it just looks a lot tackier. Like, it's hard to describe. Hi, Nola. But the numpad section of the keyboard space is very underserved right now. Like, we need a lot more. But if you want THOCK and you want a pre-built keyboard, is this the keyboard that you should buy?
So ultimately, if you want true THOCK, which is deep keyboard sounds, then the Kale Prestige Silence or this keyboard might be the way to go. Now, is it a good keyboard for enthusiasts? Not really. I mean, but you guys probably already knew that. But is this a good keyboard for your average friend that just wants something pretty darn nice, but not too daunting? Yeah. Like, it has some issues, but it kind of reminds me of like an iPhone, you know, in a good way,